Please try to adjust the way you talk to black and brown chatters. Seeing you dismiss the concern of chatters, asking you to speak up about Sudan makes me feel some kind of unsafe around here. Yeah, I saw that Twitter thread. I have talked about Sudan extensively on numerous occasions. In a lot of instances, chatters come in here to specifically bait me to be like, why don't you talk about Sudan? Which is exactly what, Cory Booker did as well. It's a deflection mechanism. The only reason why many people actually bring up Sudan is often when I'm talking about Israel. So I think I dealt with it appropriately. And it is crazy to me that there are people out there who present themselves as like leftists that still actively try to farm impressions from neo-Nazis. Nice to see chat being very normal about me sharing my concerns. It's because we experienced this like a million times over. You've hardly talked about Sudan in depth like you've talked about Israel, for example. Yes, of course, because one is a proxy genocide that America is only involved with by way of the UAE. The other one is a direct genocide. I don't talk about Saudi Arabia's genocide of the people in Yemen as much as I talked about Gaza either, even though that was also famously a proxy genocide that the Saudi forces conducted alongside the UAE, as a matter of fact. I did cover it. I covered it extensively, just as I've done so with Sudan. But for the most part, people use that as a very cynical concern troll, and it's really disingenuous, and it's really fucked up. I'm just giving you what actually took place. Like, if you don't believe me, then that's fine. But what is this? They are daily attacking you and Mike calling you racist and grifters and doing an Anna Kasparian pivot. Yeah, dude. At a time when like white supremacy is peak, I'm doing a secret subtle pivot to white supremacy. For many years, people have made this inference, and most of the people that make these inferences unironically themselves turn reactionary after a while. Adjust yourself, hurry. Wow, unsafe because you won't address what they demand. What a great person. What do you mean? Oh, you're talking about this person. Not everyone bringing up concern is a fed. Y'all baby leftists grow up. No, but that person that was like talking about Sudan, if I recall correctly, was literally bringing it up while I was in the midst of covering the ongoing genocide in Gaza. And at the time, obviously, my determination was that they were cynically presenting it as a distraction, which implies that finally some Hasanabi. Yeah. It's always a very vague attack I'm so annoyed with. I know. But I hope I was able to make sure that you understand. Will y'all relax? I just want him to adjust how he talks, black and brown chatters. I'm not saying he's the worst person ever, Jesus Christ. Okay. I think the reason why is because you were covering the black voters in the New York City race. Oh, true. That's what it was. Yeah. Identity as a way to be like, I'm doing standpoint, you're behaving like a white supremacist, all this stuff. It happens. It is what it is. I mean, people say that about trans people as well. They'll say like, I'm transphobic as well. It's up to you to make that assessment. Do chatters realize they're being weaponized against their own interests? Probably. You definitely talk to black chatters crazy and don't give half the grace you give to white supremacists. That's not true. Yeah, this is the link. I know, I saw this. But this is a person who has hated me for a while because they think I'm misogynistic or engaging in misogynoir. I thought we had made amends, but I guess not. I guess she still hates me. See, that's dragging it. I wouldn't say that. What do you have to what can you do? Western Bing. What do you do? It's one of those positions that you will always be in. It's one of those positions that you will always be in if you are in progressive spaces. I have to baby every single person, and the moment I don't, people will literally take it to the most maximalist position. That's it. I don't think anybody actually cares. I don't think anybody actually gives a shit about this. It just probably has a but you know. You kind of need Viz to comment on too. Some events don't get any coverage. Democracy Now! To be maybe overly fair, I think people want you to talk about it because they want your audience to hear it. People who come in here asking to hear about Sudan already know about Sudan, but they know you have a wide audience and want them to hear your coverage. Negative impact on a bunch of people on Black Twitter being like, oh, here we go, another white guy who's like farming black people to make it seem like they're the king of woke or whatever the fuck. What are you going to do? Seriously. I don't do this stuff. I don't do this commentary because I want people from different kinds of marginalized backgrounds to like me or think I'm cool. I do it because I know it's right. I'm not doing, I'm not doing advocacy for historic and contemporary black liberation groups, for example, because I think, oh, black people will think I'm cool finally. I don't give a shit. If there are people who don't like it, if there are people who don't like my coverage, if there are people who don't appreciate the tone I take sometimes, or if I'm too dismissive, for example, yeah, it is what it is. Man, that only has play with like always online Zoomer black kids. The whole community don't do that shit. What do you? Yeah, it's just, it is what it is. Like I said, do you not understand unconscious bias is like pre-2000 levels of awareness, man? No, I do understand unconscious bias. I do. She fell off. Her TikTok is doing bad, and the one she made about you is their most liked and watched video this year. Just ignore these people. Yeah, I do. As a black chatter, calling out dismissive tone or microaggression is not derailing. This is how Bernie supporters lost black people. No, I understand that. But how do we arrive at this? As an older black dude, y'all just need to find your own Discord and cry. Stop being annoying. Have you talked about black liberation struggles? Yes. This goes back to the same thing that always happens where it's like, I think it's malicious. I personally think it's malicious. Sometimes it stems from people being hurt by others. Like there are plenty of white people that black people have thought were woke that show their faces in a long enough timeline. Your coverage of Sudan has not been anywhere near as your coverage of Yemen. I don't think you're racist for it, but it's still the truth. No, my coverage of Yemen at the time of Saudi-backed genocide was around the same extent as my coverage of Sudan. Not Yemen now, as America is directly bombing Yemen. Yes, of course, I covered that a lot more. Once again, you guys have to understand, there are atrocities happening around the world. I'm not going to be able to cover every single one of them. I'm not going to be as knowledgeable on every single one of them. I don't know. It's just, it is what it is. It's not just black people. All marginalized groups feel like the stream perpetuates American exceptionalism. Yes, because I'm an American citizen talking about American foreign policy. And it's understandable that, and it goes for every single marginalized identity, whether it's trans people, whether it's black people, whether it's women who think that like someone that speaks out on these sorts of things that impact women, for example, will end up betraying them. Okay. But having said that, you should make up your own mind on this issue. You should make this judgment on your own rather than being geared into an unfavorable position because you saw a clip that someone presented as like a negative. Marginalized people have trauma response based on their bad experiences. Yeah, I understand it. But as far as like people go, as far as people saying you have so much smoke for black people, that's not true. I abhor reactionary wrecker behavior. It is one of the things that frustrates me to no end. It makes me so mad. And it doesn't matter what anyone's background is. If they engage in reactionary wrecker behavior, I will yell at them. I will be short with them. You have no close black friends? Wait, what? You have no close black friends. All your friends are white and East Asian. Look at fear and you are not white. You have no close black friends. Are you okay? That's not true, but okay. Still weird. I don't think it's unfair to say there should be more Sudan coverage, but why are people using this horrific situation to attack your relationship with black chatters? Also, we have talked about the relationship UAE has in arming Sudan. Last time we covered it, that we arm. Same with Saudi and Yemen. Yeah. I saw folks on Twitter said you reacted negatively towards the black lady that brought up Sudan one time, and now they're saying that you constantly aggro towards black women. I know. I don't. But I do constantly aggro towards people who do this kind of thing, and there's not really. I mean, I do constantly aggro towards people who derail and then use whatever insert. Like, are you trying to rile me up? Is that what it is? Is that what's going on? Yes, dude. I'm an American exceptionalist. That's why I mostly cover America's fuck shit around the world. Okay. Jesus Christ. I do feel as though a lot of people are upset because they are attacking what they consider to be an accessible place where they can express their discontent. And I think that's what's going on here. I'm one person. Okay. I don't know why you guys don't watch other content creators who do a much better job than I do on those issues. No. Haters will use this back and forth to cynically frame this as like an anti-black conversation. Like it'll be the likes of like Ethan Klein, who has an 8-minute compilation of saying the N-word that will without a shred of irony, immediately weaponize shit like this to be like, look at how anti-black Hassan is. MLK Jr. was the 1960s George Floyd, and his, air quotes, holiday should be ended and tossed into the 7th circle of hell where it belongs. The response is, Jesus Christ. Paul Ingratiate, President Donald Trump's embattled nominee to lead the Office of Special Counsel, told a group of fellow Republicans in a text chain that the Martin Luther King Jr. holiday should be tossed into the 7th circle of hell. This holiday, Jesus Christ, one participant responded. Using an Italian slur for black people, Ingratiate wrote a month early, what's up with these fucking Republican Italians, by the way? It's actually crazy. Like, it wasn't the last guy also Italian? What the fuck is happening? Anyway, seen by Politico, no bleep holidays from Kwanzaa to MLK Jr. Day to Black History Month to Juneteenth. This is eggplant in Italian. For the record, for those of you who don't know, it is a slur that Italians use towards black people. The word for eggplant, I believe. Every single one needs to be eviscerated. Politico interviewed, remember, I am the PhD of racism. Okay. Politico interviewed 2 people in the chat and granted them anonymity after they expressed concerns about the personal and professional repercussions. Dude, it's so awesome that these, like, the Republican operatives that want to get ahead want to shank other Republican operatives, and it's become like this weird knife fight where they just like leak this shit to Politico. It's not like these guys want to eradicate racism on their side. They just want to use it. They want to use it right now to basically take out some people while they have the opportunity to do so, which automatically helps them advance. And it's awesome. I'm here for it. Politico interviewed 2 people in the chat and granted them anonymity after they expressed concerns about personal and professional repercussions. One retained the messages and showed the text chain in its entirety to Politico, which independently verified that the number listed on the chain belongs to Ingrescia. The person said he came forward because he wants the government to be staffed with experienced people who are taken seriously. The second person has since deleted the chain and didn't recall specifics about it, but did confirm the discussions took place. A lawyer for Ingrescia, Edward Andrew Paltzik, initially suggested that some of the texts were intended to be poking fun at liberals, though he didn't confirm they were authentic. Looks like these texts could be manipulated or are being provided with material context omitted. However, arguendo, even if the texts are authentic, they're clearly read as self-deprecating and satirical humor, making fun of the fact that liberals outlandishly and routinely call MAGA supporters Nazis, he wrote in a statement. I don't know. This doesn't seem like outlandish or out of context, but what do I know? Maybe he meant MLK Jr. Nope, there's really no way to. I was gonna try and do like a funny way to reframe what he's saying here within a more appropriate context, but he didn't really leave a lot of room for ambiguity. Yeah, I guess like maybe unless the follow-up text message was, is what I would say if I was a racist monster in the same way that Democrats present us as. Right? Like, maybe that's the follow-up text. Waiting for Vance to say this is obviously just a kid telling jokes. Black people into victims, the text showing Gracia remarked, blacks behave that way because that's their natural state. You can't change them. He then added, according to the chat, proof, all of Africa is a shithole and will always be a shithole, I assume is what he's saying. In February 2024, Ingracia wrote, we need competent white men in positions of leadership. The founding fathers were wrong that all men are created equal. We need to reject that part of our heritage, according to the text exchange. The founding fathers would not have allowed you to be in a position of leadership. What is this? One Saturday afternoon in October, my phone lit up with a notification. I glanced down at the message. Anna Lindsay Halligan here, it began. So began my text exchange with the top prosecutor for the Eastern District of Virginia. Incredible stuff. Cue the ADL response. This is a delicate moment. It's a new day, and yet so many are on edge. Paul belongs in the Hitler with Uber Gruppenführer Steve Bannon. I do have a Nazi streak in me from time to time. I will admit it. Never trust a Chinaman or Indian. Never. What the fuck? Like, he added extra letters onto that to be racist. And not even like not even contemporary racism. I feel like that's what people use. It's like calling Asian people like Oriental or something. You know what I mean? Ananı bacını sikeyim senin orospu çocuğu terörist piç. Anyway, I forgot Jonathan Greenblatt had a take on the Maccabi Tel Aviv fans, by the way, of course. Excluding Maccabi Tel Aviv fans from attending a match in the UK under the guise of safety is deeply concerning. He obviously, the Apartheid Defense League had to chime in there. In reality, but we're going back to another thing that the ADL is probably not going to talk about unless they're forced to. In reality, Mr. Ingratia has incredible support from the Jewish community because Jews know that Mr. Ingratia is the furthest thing from a Nazi. In a subsequent statement to Politico a few days later, Palcic called out anonymous critics trying to hurt Ingratia. In this age of AI, authentication of allegedly leaked messages which could be outright false, as doctored, manipulated, or lacking critical context is extremely difficult, he said. What is certain, though, is that there are individuals who cloak themselves in anonymity while executing their underhanded personal agendas to harm Mr. Ingratia at all costs. We do not concede the authenticity of any of these purported messages. In May 2024, the group was bantering about a Trump campaign staffer who'd been hired in Georgia and was working on outreach to minority voters when Ingratia suggested she didn't show enough deference to the founding fathers being white, according to the chat. Paul belongs in the Hitler Youth, was Steve Bannon, the first participant in the chat, wrote, referencing the paramilitary rank at Nazi Germany and the Republican strategist. Politico is not naming the participants to protect the identity of those interviewed for this article. To which he responded, I do have a Nazi streak in me from time to time. I will admit it. One of the people in the text group said in an interview that Ingratia's comment was not taken as a joke, and 3 participants pushed back against Ingratia during the text exchange that day. Referring to white nationalist Nick Fuentes in the Live from America show on the video sharing platform Rumble, a second member of the group replied, new Live from America show starring Nick Fuentes and Paul Adolph Ingratia, to which Ingratia wrote, Lamau, according to the group chat. The existence of the messages comes as Ingratia's nomination. Wait, so he was publicly on Nick Fuentes' show? What is this? What the fuck? Breaking CNN is uncovered audio. RFK Jr. praising a description of Trump and his supporters as belligerent idiots. What? Hold on. Let me just finish this article, please. Jesus Christ. Oh. Yeah, I think that is an old audio, this one. Yeah, it's from a 2016 recording unearthed by CNN's K-File, where RFK Jr. indeed praised those harsh descriptions of Trump supporters and drew the Hitler comparison. We knew that already. 2 people in the Trump administration have openly compared him in a negative fashion to Adolf Hitler. One is J.D. Vance, and the other is RFK Jr. This was back in June. Trump has appointed one Paul Ingratia, a known white supremacist, to lead the Office of Special Counsel. He went on a Nick Fuentes rally and wrote a Substack article titled Free Nick Fuentes. He has called Andrew Tate an extraordinary human being and the ancient ideal of excellence. He called the war in Gaza yet another psyop to distract Americans from celebrating Columbus Day. Wait, this guy's awesome. What the fuck? He is all over the place with, like, he's like a Nazi, but also he's like really, really involved in the Italiophobia initiatives, you know? I think we could all admit at this stage that Israel, Palestine, much like Ukraine before it, and BLM before that, and COVID vaccine before that, was yet another psyop. He will have real power. He's a genuine anti-Semite. Yet for some reason, all the self-appointed anti-Semitism fighters are going after a woman of color who gave a speech against genocide today. It makes you wonder what the agenda of these accounts is. It certainly isn't fighting anti-Semitism. Yeah, no shit. So he would lead the Office of Special Counsel. Nothing on the new text yet, but it's time to attack Zoran. Elected officials and candidates should know that who they associate with sends signals to their constituents. At a time of skyrocketing anti-Semitism, this matters more than ever to the Jewish community. Imam Siraj Wahhaj has a history of supporting controversial figures involved in terrorism. He's been associated with groups that have a long history of spreading anti-Semitism. So at a time when anti-Jewish hate has surged to record-breaking levels, how does associating with Wahhaj demonstrate a commitment to protecting Jewish residents and all New Yorkers? Oh, fucking awesome. This is the unindicted co-conspirator narratives, right? So Politico just revealed that a Trump nominee for a senior position in government described himself as having a Nazi streak. Not a word from Greenblatt or the ADL, but here's a long screed about a Muslim mayoral candidate standing next to someone in a photo. Not sure Jewish communities in the U.S. get how severe the anti-Semitic threat from MAGA right is, given how Greenblatt and the ADL seem to only obsess over the left, Muslims, pro-Palestine activists, while giving openly anti-Semitic right-wingers a pass. So dangerous. This is what's so strange about this circumstances still overwhelmingly comes from right-wing neo-Nazi groups. So the ADL, up until like October 7, would at the very least, in an effort to present itself as a serious institution that was tasked with combating bigotry of all forms, would actually actively tackle the right-wing groups and had like the anti-Semitism glossary, all this stuff. Post October 7, they just went full tilt. Like, you can be a fucking open, avowed neo-Nazi. We're not gonna fucking yell at you. All you only are a problem if you are an anti-Zionist. And they've also, ironically, heavily leaned into. They've also unironically heavily leaned into the whole like race, fomenting like some sort of sectarian division amongst Muslims and Jews. How do you know the anti-Semitism isn't coming from the Muslims? Wait, what the fuck do you mean? Because I'm not oblivious to where the overwhelming majority of bigotry is coming from in this country. Partially because of the ADL's own work, ironically enough, pre-October 7. Now, what's interesting about this process also is that I would go so far as to say something controversial. Okay? I would go so far as to say that is there anti-Semitic tendencies amongst the Muslim population? Of course. Are there Islamophobic tendencies amongst the Jewish population? Also, of course. And I would go so far as to say one is considered a bigotry that is not permissible. The other one is actually routinely promoted, which is precisely the reason why there is not a single Muslim politician that has ever said anything even remotely anti-Semitic, yet there are plenty of Jewish American politicians that have openly said the most heinous Islamophobic shit you've ever fucking heard of. And it's not just Randy Fine either. Even Democrats have done the same thing. There's never been like a Charlottesville equivalent where a bunch of Muslims took to the fucking streets and were like, Jews will not replace us. Okay? Because Muslims, by and large, are a minority in this country. They know who is actually targeting them. Okay? And yes, as Zoran also correctly points out here, the same imam met with Mayor Bloomberg, met with Mayor de Blasio, campaigned alongside Eric Adams, and the only time it became an issue of national attention when I met with him. Mamdani, who earlier in the day smiled, waved, and stayed silent over the controversy, claimed critics were fired up because of his faith. It's true, by the way. He is a fucking prominent religious figure in New York, and the only reason why this became a story is because Zoran is Muslim, and they want to fucking hit the he's a scary Muslim narratives, and they ain't slick about it either. It's really fucked up. And what's crazy about it is that not only did all of these other previous mayors campaign with this guy, okay, the way that they're trying to claim that this person is actually secretly a terrorist is because he was an unindicted coking in defense of Zoran Mamdani. That's how you know. I also fucking despise how normalized shunning the Muslim community in New York City is. Cuomo not visiting mosques and getting zero flag versus Zoran visiting synagogues and still being criticized for not visiting the right ones. Yeah. Is this working anywhere? I don't know. I don't think it's like, I think Zoran is charismatic enough to overcome this shit, but like, it's not great. I think New York City is far too diverse and far too invested in his platform to give a fuck about any of this stuff. But it's disgusting that these like supposedly liberal institutions are not saying a goddamn thing about it. I've already told you this before, but like all of the Zoran makes Jews feel less safe should be read in the same exact way that like white supremacist Christian pastors would be like, well, if we do miscegenation, then the white Christians feel unsafe. It's just racism. Silence from prominent Dems speaks volumes. Let's just call it racism. Just look how Cuomo even made Zoran look more threatening with a beard and shit. Yeah, 100%. I mean, I know that like the age of woke is gone or whatever, and Muslims usually are the last people to ever fucking come out and be like, dude, come on, this is like transparent Islamophobia. This is transparent bigotry. But like, I mean, what are we doing? What the fuck are we doing here? This is just so fucking transparent. Anyway, let's get back to the Office of Special Counsel, an agency that investigates federal employee whistleblower complaints and discrimination claims among other sensitive work, is already in trouble. Earlier this month, Politico reported that Ingracia, 30, has been the subject of an internal investigation at the Department of Homeland Security, where he works as a White House liaison, after a sexual harassment complaint was filed against him. The woman who filed the complaint later withdrew it and said there was no wrongdoing. Ingracia's attorney denied the allegations. Spokespeople for the White House and DHS did not respond to requests for comment about the text messages. In July, Republican senators delayed Ingracia's nomination hearing, with one airing concerns about some statements about anti-Semitism. Ingracia made other racist remarks, according to the chain. In January 2024, he wrote of former Republican presidential candidate Vivek Ramaswamy, never trust a, I'm not even going to read it now, I read it before, but, or an Indian, and then added, never, the text show. Ramaswamy, the son of Indian immigrants, declined to comment. A month later, discussing why some Republicans feel that Democrats make black people the victims, the text show Ingracia remarked, blacks behave that way because that's their natural state. You can't change them. He then added, according to the chat, proof, all of Africa's a shithole and always will be that way. May 2024 discussion surrounding the Nazi remark turned serious as Ingracia dug in. Ingracia at first remarked that Georgia operatives should read a book, if she's able to, on George Washington and America's founding. Paul, you are coming across as a white nationalist, which is beneficial to nobody, a third participant in the chat replied. When Ingracia apparently said that defending our founding isn't white nationalist, that participant pushed back, saying Ingracia reflexively went to saying whites built the country. They did, Ingracia said, according to the chat. That comment prompted the same participant to respond. You're going to be in private practice one day. This shit will be around forever, brother. I like that his friends are literally just like, they're not saying they disagree with him. They're just saying it's going to be bad for his career prospects. Which is funny because it turns out one of those guys was actually literally waiting to use this to tank his career prospects. Ingracia posted an image of paintings showing several founding fathers, including Washington, John Adams, Alexander Hamilton, in the chat. We should celebrate white men and Western civilization, and I will never back down from that, he wrote, according to the chain. The third participant of the group criticized Ingracia's white nationalist tone. Then he said was coming across with a tinge of racism. Second participant then said he sounded like a scumbag. Oh, wow. Jesus. To which Ingracia replied, nah, it's fine. Don't be a boomer. I don't mind being a scumbag from time to time, the text show. I said we're making Kwanzaa illegal in the next Trump admin. That was the gist of my tweet. No bleep holidays, Italian word for eggplant, which is to disparage black people and Sicilians. From Kwanzaa to MLK Day to Black History Month to Juneteenth, every single one needs to be a mass attacks. That's the only thing that's going to make the ADL yell at him, by the way. The ADL is going to be like, how dare you? Yeah, the I am Adolf Hitler is fine, but you think it's a psyop? The October 7 attack was a psyop? How dare you? In March 2023, he said that the education should focus on helping elevating the high IQ selection of your demographics. So, basically young men, straight white men. Oh, these guys are such fucking losers. The person in the group chat who shared the messages, who has known Ingracia for several years and met him through Republican political circles, said that Ingracia's personality changed in recent years as he went from a young law student interested in conservative politics to an extreme ego-driven Trump loyalist. The person said the shift began after Ingracia, a Cornell Law School graduate, started working as a law clerk for the firm representing Tate and appeared several times on the War Room podcast with Bannon, who did not respond to a request for comment. He was too young and too inexperienced to deal with the fame, the person said. It was like giving an 18-year-old $10 million and saying, have at it, kid. Periodically, during the text chain, the group nudged Ingracia to tone down his rhetoric, especially if he wanted to work in a future Trump administration, according to the person. Well, he didn't do that, it seems. And now Politico has caught wind of these text messages. Many such cases. Yeah, that's great. Fantastic. Oh, that snitch was waiting for him to finish his collection. It's insane. Yeah. I mean, this guy wasn't exactly shy about his participation as an open neo-Nazi, referring to white nationalist Nick Fuentes in the Live from America show on video Rumble. Second member of the group replied, "New LFA show coming starring Nick Fuentes." Here it is, dude. Look. Like, it's not like this is a secret. He was just straight up aligned with Nick Fuentes publicly. How the fuck do these people not understand that that is like the clear-cut marker of someone being a white supremacist? This is so confusing to me. Like, what more do you need to see? He was sucking in fucking Richard Spencer, but we couldn't tell. Mr. President. Anyway, there's some Ukraine stuff in here as well. But after that, actually, you know what? We're skipping this. Let's get into fresh attack launched on mayoral race frontrunner Zohran Mamdani. I briefly talked about it. It's like transparent bigotry, transparent Islamophobia. But that won't stop the media from doing it. I'm going to pee real quick
and we'll
be back.
Mayor's race. It's the last weekend before early voting begins. And today, the candidates were out talking to voters and taking aim at the Democratic frontrunner. Classic soccer tournament on Sunday.
The same imam met with Mayor Bloomberg, met with Mayor de Blasio, campaigned alongside Eric Adams. And the only time it became an issue of national attention was when I met with him. And that's because of the fact of my faith and because I'm on the precipice of winning this election.
Curtis Sliwa taking to Facebook about the picture, adding, "Siraj Wahhaj is dangerous. This is disturbing to see." On Sunday, Sliwa once again emphasized he has no plans to quit the race, with just days until their upcoming second debate.
Zohran Mamdani, his only answer to everything is affordability, affordability, affordability. Andrew Cuomo, he just...
Wait, what? Is he glazing Zohran again? What is happening? Zohran Mamdani, he always talks about affordability, but I fucking hate Andrew Cuomo. Memdepi, he's gonna be a good mayor. Let me tell you, I'm in a rent-controlled apartment with my 17 cats. I need more money for Purina. And honestly, I'm a big fan of the rent freeze. Let's be fucking real about it.
He doesn't understand he's no longer relevant. His time has passed. And I'm going to make that very apparent to everybody who will be watching and listening.
According to a recent Fox News poll taken before Thursday's debate, Mamdani remains the front-runner with over 50% of the vote, Cuomo trailing just below 30%, and Sliwa sits at 14%. And Democratic Representative Hakeem Jeffries falling short of a full endorsement of Mamdani Sunday, but did speak to an array of positive conversations he's had with the front-runner.
Awesome.
That we're focused on, in particular, his efforts to make New York City more affordable. That's the right issue to focus on.
And early voting starts on Saturday. The second debate between the three candidates will be held Wednesday night at 7. And we will be covering that debate as well as the final days leading up to Election Day. Stay with us on air and online at CBS New York.
This shit, it's unironically no different than the whole like, oh, well, you associated with a guy who fucking said America deserved 9/11. Like, they are trying to say you did 9/11. Okay, that's what they are trying to say. That's what it is. You're Muslim. And it's very clear. Like, this is, your wash. Trump is not aware of your photograph with Zohran. That's true.
Bombings photo with the 93 World Trade Center bombing.
Yeah, no, it's a shame. Look, the Mamdani thing.
I'm saying this as nicely as someone who enjoys your political commentary.